Hi everyone, my name is Chris Martin. Welcome to Keto with me. It is day 29 on my journey back into keto. New to my channel, check out my day 0 video where I cover the details of why I created this video series. All right, let's roll the clip. All right, that was my day 29 clip. It was a good day overall. I thought it was going to be kind of a cruddy day just simply because of the meal that I had, and we'll talk about that just in a second. Let's go through the numbers. My carbs I have estimated at 23.8. We'll talk about that here in a second. My blood glucose was 80 and my ketones were 2.5, which is fantastic. Especially after my meal, I kind of was worried about. My weight is 215, so I went down 0.6. I'm very tickled about that. It went, I was not even expecting a weight loss, especially a consistent weight loss 2 or 3 days in a row now. So I'm really tickled. So 19.4 pounds. Maybe I'll hit 20 by, the 30-day mark. I'm okay if I don't. 19.4 is really good for me. My macro percentages were off slightly yesterday. 60% on fat, 8% on carbs, and then 32% on protein. So yesterday was my week 5 start. So it was the first day of week 5. So we have some little adjustments on the goals you'll see here in a minute. What I was talking about, so if you saw, we ended up making keto chili. My wife wanted to eat chili yesterday, and I said, well, I have to have some kind of keto version. And usually I'm right there, like putting, we make a lot of things together, but I'm putting like my meal together ahead of time on paper or on Chronometer just so I know exactly where it is. I had an appointment to go to, and then I came back and it was already done. So, I'm kind of like, hey, how much of this did you put in? Because there was a keto recipe, and pretty much you leave out the beans and anything else that would be too carby. The only thing that's like real carb, is the tomato sauce. But, she had all the cans there for me, and she said she put this in, and then it was interesting. They made it with beef broth, which actually tasted really good. I was quite surprised. I'd never had beef broth in chili before, so it really did add to it. So I overestimated on everything, and when I did eat it, pretty much I ate all the meat out of it and tried to not eat as little of the sauce as I possibly could, just because I didn't want to consume the bulk of the carbs. So, I said the calorie word, that's bad. I ate the bulk of the carbs, and I'm sorry, I didn't want to eat the bulk of the carbs. So what I did is I just overestimated on everything, and I put myself at 23.8. So I was expecting, when I checked my blood glucose and ketones this morning, I was expecting the numbers to be kind of like off, from previous, but they're actually better. So I'm happy about that. My fat could have been higher. That's something that I probably would have addressed if I was putting it together. I might have put something, more fat in it, maybe some butter or something else, or maybe even taking a shot of like MCT with it, just to kind of offset the numbers. So overall, I'm now that it's happened, I'm like, okay, this is doable, and I didn't have to worry about falling apart because I was worried. My wife was like, you need to stop worrying about it. And I was like, I know, but I'm usually trying to, so that just says right there that, don't freak out if sometimes you think things are, different, that it really wasn't. So not a bad start to week 5. A little bit of a, like I said, scare, but not a bad start at all. So let's talk about my goals. All right, let's take a look at my week 5 goals. That's right, we started a new week. It's day 29. Let's see if my pit of success is working. So last night was just weird on the sleeping. I don't know if it had to do with like eating the keto chili and then maybe worrying about it, but you'll see that I put 4 or 5 hours and question mark on the times up. I just remember like just waking up like frequently last night, not like anxious, not like burning up, it was just weird. I was like, why am I not, sleeping here? And I just don't really honestly know, what caused it. I do know that yesterday was like one of those warm days in March that you don't usually expect to get, like it was in the mid 70s. The house was a little bit warmer. I like to sleep when it's colder. So maybe that was it. I'm not going to really worry about it too much, but I didn't really put it on the scale because there is no way to know. I mean, I don't have a scale for it, right? Okay to beast mode, nothing fits that. So I just kind of marked, what I actually did. So moving on to eating keto. So fasting, I had great numbers, 23 hours and 45 minutes. Again, had no issues. In the late afternoon, I was starting to like, oh man, I could really eat now. And so I just made sure that I had some of my mineral salt water. And probably within about 15 minutes, I was forgetting all about it. So I really do think that stuff works. I'm impressed. There were no changes to that category for my week 5. Really, here in this, you'll see on macros is the only thing really I changed for week 5 goals. But let's style, dirty, clean, home cooked meals for for actually today or yesterday, which is day 29, and that went well. So I marked that dirty, clean. So my macros, carbs, I mentioned I overestimated at 23.8. So my macro categories, as far as like, carbs go, I changed them. I used to have, for the OK, I used to have less than 40. I switched that to less than 30 now because I feel like I need to tighten it up a little bit for me to get to where I want to be. I'm not going to kill myself again if I end up hitting that, between 20 and 30 range. That's why I got this. I got some flexibility. And yesterday was the flexibility I needed because, a little bit of a panic set in when I think I went over. Numbers, my ketones and glucose say otherwise, and weight loss, but, I got the flexibility. So I feel like I can be successful with this. So that put me in the good category for carbs less than 25. And my macro percentages, as I mentioned earlier, were a little bit off from the 75, 5, and 20 that you would like to ideally be around. So as far as learning goes, this beginning of the week, so I only have one video that I've reviewed and I'm going to share today. Tracking, as always, I'm doing great at that. Chronometer, spreadsheet, woohoo! So meditation and relaxation, again, I'd like to be doing longer times with this, but I'm just taking 5 minutes here, taking 5 minutes there, and just tuning out, breathing deeply, and relaxing. Again, that may not be one of your goals. Put whatever you want on your list, or do whatever you got to do, but just make sure you have a good pit of success that's flexible enough that you can do this. Exercise, non-existent yet. We'll see that sometime in the future. That's it for my week 5 goals. Let's take a look at the video recommendation. All right, for the day 29 video recommendation, it's a video by Dr. Boz. It is titled, this is a long title by the way, Dr. Boz Ratio Explained, Ketones plus Glucose Explained, and BozMD.com introduced. So it's 36 minutes and 40 seconds, but you really only need to watch the first 13 minutes, I think, is where I kind of was like, okay, this is... So what happens is, you know, she covers what I want to talk about today, which is the Dr. Boz ratio, because, you know, remember we talked about the GKI some, and then Dr. Boz has her ratio. So you're going to see that stuff start to show up on my slides starting day 30. So, she covers like the reason why you need to look at your blood glucose and your ketones, just like Thomas DeLauer was talking on the GKI, that, you know, one of the numbers by themselves isn't necessarily enough information to know how your metabolism is doing. So the GKI formula is a little more complicated, because if you remember, you have to take, like, you know, the glucose, divide it by 18, take that result, and then divide that by the ketones, and then that gives you a number. I'm going to put both on my slides. Again, I'm not really GKI kind of person, but it's just interesting to see where the numbers are going to be, you know, and then start to get that into my head. She covers insulin resistance. She said that, you know, the only really true way to know how your insulin is doing, really truly, because you can't just look at the blood glucose by itself. I mean, you go to the doctor and get your insulin tested, and that would give you a really good picture of it. But what she was saying is that you take these two numbers to know if you're making a difference. So her ratio is a lot simpler. You just take the blood glucose and you divide it by the ketones, and then that gives you a number. And then what she does is she has a scale that she's created, like less than 80, less than 40, you know, less than 20. So we're going to talk about those for a second. She also reiterates in this video that, you know, this is not something that typically, you know, she, you know, recommends for beginners. If you remember the timeline thing I shared from her, you know, so you may not be wanting to do blood, you know, ketones. You know, you may not want to be doing your glucose yet. You may just want to be like, hey, I want to get used to some of this keto stuff first, Chris, and then get into it. And she mentions that too. She even mentions, like, you know, her slow cut over and, you know, cutting out the carbs. And I recommend that too. I mean, you could go cold turkey, or you could ease yourself into it and make it a little bit easier by cutting some things out, then cutting some more over weeks, and then getting it down to where you can actually do, you know, some really good keto eating. So her scale, well, real quick, when to do it. This is totally up to you. For me, when I first started this journey last time, you know, I did the whole pea strips, and after a while they just kind of kept saying the same thing, and I couldn't really tell between the last two, like, am I really this dark of a strip, or am I this dark, and how much am I really doing? And for me, you know, I got on the scale. I only did it once a week, and then, you know, if I had no weight loss, you know, first thing that sets in is like, I'm doing something wrong. I don't really know. I mean, am I doing well? So for me, it felt good to have something else to do, you know, to verify it. It does not mean that you have to do that. It just felt good for me because I could look at it. Now, what could be terrifying, and depending on how you look at it, is that, let's just say you're not losing weight, you get your blood glucose keeps staying up there, your ketones are staying down, and then you're just like, oh great, now I got 3 things that tell me I'm not doing something right. That's not an indicator that you're not doing something right. It's an indicator that you might be stuck. You know, you might have, you know, pretty high insulin resistance, and maybe you have to do a little bit of stressing. You might have to just adjust things to get it to where you need. It might also be, you know, you're doing the net carb thing versus the total carb. You have to take everything and put it together. So if you want to use it, go ahead and use it, you know, but don't feel like you have to run out and get a meter, you know, and these things to make it work. But here's her scale. I like her scale. She says that if you do her, you know, ratio and it comes out less than 80, then you're more than likely going to have weight loss. Now, there's no absolutes on this. She's telling you that you're going, more than likely, this is what you're going to do. You'll probably have a little bit of autophagy, which I'm going to find one of her discussions or someone else's discussion on autophagy. It's a really cool thing. It's a short version of it is your body's way of just cleaning things out, old things in your body, which sounds like a good thing, right? A little bit of housekeeping. If you get that number to less than 40, then you're triggering an immune system response, and you'll start to see skin improvement. She's indicating, and so what and then if you have less than 20, she's saying that you probably are triggering cancer level removing, like you're benefiting yourself with cancer. And she talks a lot about her book and things like that, and how it helped her mom, and and some other things. So she indicated that, and remember this video was made a while ago. But she indicated that what she does is when she does a long fast, she'll fast until she hits the 40 mark, and then she stops. So she's got what works for her. I think this is a good way to figure out, like, again, it's real simple. Like, I wouldn't, on GKI now, I know it's like between 1 and 3 that you want to target, but I still feel very comfortable using her ratio. I mean, her ratio made enough sense that the Fora meter, that's the people who I use, their blood meter, they actually incorporated it into their software. So that says a lot. That means that she presented enough of an argument that, hey, this is a good indicator. Let's put it in there for for some folks to follow. I think it's really good. Let me see. I got another comment here. She even says that you can have a decent morning glucose and still have high insulin. So again, these two numbers can help you know whether or not you're going to do it. So don't rush out and get a meter just because, hey, this is, you're telling me to do this, Chris. No, I say do what's comfortable for you. I think at some point you'll want to do it because you really want to start dialing in. And that's kind of where I'm at. I like to see these numbers, especially after yesterday eating that keto chili. I was like, oh God, my ketones are going to be horrible the next day, the next morning. My blood sugar is probably going to be off. No, I now that it happened, I'm like, okay, that wasn't so bad, but I'm not going to get complacent. I'm still going to be tightening things up. So again, watch the first 13 minutes. If you want, go ahead and watch the rest of her video. She introduces her website. I'm sure things have changed since that video has been made. She always has great material. She always has a lot of support out there, and I think, that all together we can help each other, on this journey. So that's it for my video recommendation. I hope you enjoyed it. That's it for day 29, folks. Thanks for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe so you can keto with me. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. Just remember, nobody's perfect. Be a coach, not a critic, and take care.